Hello everyone, I'm Alex. Today, I want to take you with me through a full, honest, and detailed telling of how my day unfolds. The small choices, the little annoyances, the tiny wins, and the moments that make the day feel worth it. I'll describe what I do from the moment I open my eyes to the way I close my evening. And I'll share why I make each choice, what I feel while I do it, and how you might try parts of this day in your own life. Before we move on, I want to ask you two quick questions. Answer them in the comments box so we can learn from each other. 1. What single part of your day do you look forward to most, and why? 2. What's one tiny habit you'd like to change tomorrow? Drop your answers in the comments box and I'll read a few in the next video. I wake up with a slow awareness rather than a jump. The ceiling is still a gentle gray, and my first thought isn't a schedule or a to-do list, but a small inventory. How my body feels, whether I slept deeply, and what taste the morning has left in my mouth. Before I even move, I spend a few seconds breathing. Slow inhales, longer exhales. That short breathing practice resets the tone for the day. It's not a long ritual, just enough to turn the pilot light of my attention on. If you try this, don't aim for perfect posture or a mystical experience. Just notice the breath. That noticing is the anchor. From the bed, I reach for my water bottle and take 2 or 3 big sips. Hydrating first thing helps clear that dry mouth fog and gives my brain a small jolt of comfort. I don't check my phone before this. I save the scroll for later because the first 15 minutes set the emotional climate for the whole day. Starting with alerts and social media often draws my mood away from present moments and into other people's high notes or low notes. If that's familiar to you, experiment with a short no-phone rule for the first half hour after you wake. Treat your morning like a soft buffer. Getting ready is simple and intentional. I choose clothes that feel comfortable but a little sharper than yesterday's lounge outfit. Not to impress anyone, but because dressing with a tiny bit of care lifts how I move. I make a quick breakfast that isn't complicated. Something with protein and something fresh. Often it's eggs and a piece of fruit, or yogurt with nuts and honey. Food in the morning works on 2 levels. It fuels the body for cognitive tasks, and it signals to my mind that I'm investing in my own well-being. I talk through my breakfast like a short checklist. What I'm grateful for, one thing I want to accomplish, and one micro task, a 10 to 20-minute action that will become momentum later. While I eat, I give myself 5 minutes to plan the day in a focused way. Not a long list, just 3 anchors. The one main professional goal, one personal human goal, and a tiny habit to practice. For example, finish the first draft of a script, call my sister, spend 10 minutes stretching. Those 3 anchors act like buoys. If the sea of the day gets choppy, they remind me what matters. I tend to write these anchors on a small sticky note and put it where I can see it. The physical act of writing is important. It creates a contract between my intention and the real world. My commute or the way I leave the house is respectful of the morning energy I've built. If I'm walking, I move at a pace that lets me feel the world, noticing colors, sounds, or the weather. If I'm in a car or on public transit, I use that time for a transition ritual. A podcast that feeds my curiosity or a playlist that matches how I want to feel. I don't dive into reactive email while moving because that's a fast path to anxiety. There's a difference between preparing for the day and being pulled by someone else's urgency. Honor that boundary. At work or in the main part of my day, I break tasks into 2 broad categories: deep and shallow. Deep tasks are the handful that require uninterrupted attention and create the most value: writing, problem-solving, planning. Shallow tasks are administrative, answering emails, scheduling, quick edits. I protect deep tasks by giving myself a clear block. Not by ritualizing with a timer necessarily, but by telling people when I'm unavailable and by creating buffer tasks that prevent constant interruptions. If interruptions happen, I practice a brief resettling. I close my eyes for 5 breaths, remind myself where I left off, and write a one-sentence note. Next step. X. That note is a mental bookmark that makes returning to deep work quicker. When I sit down to write or create, I start with a deliberately imperfect first pass. I used to demand that every sentence be final and clever. That expectation became a creativity killer. Now I allow the first draft to be messy. I tell myself, my job right now is to find the thread. That permission produces momentum. If you struggle to begin, give yourself 10 minutes of free writing or low-stakes tinkering. Often, the resistance vanishes once you've started. Lunch is a pause rather than a speed bump. I try to step away from my primary workspace, even if it's for 20 minutes. Eating while continuing to stare at screens blunts digestion and attention. A brief walk after the meal helps digestion and resets my posture. I pay attention to what's on my plate, a balance of vegetables, protein, and whole grains. Food choices affect not just energy, but mood. When I'm conscious of the color and texture of my plate, I feel more satisfied with a little less. Midday often brings the familiar dip, a slight slump where motivation leaks away. My strategy is to rotate activities. When my concentration for one kind of thinking fades, I switch to another mode. A short phone call, a hands-on task, or a quick creative sketch. That variety keeps my nervous system engaged. If I notice fatigue that's not the usual kind, I check my basics. Hydration, movement, and whether I ate enough. Sometimes a 5-minute breathing circle or 2 to 3 minutes of stretching rescues the rest of the afternoon. Social interactions, colleagues, friends, random chats, are not interruptions. They're embedded in my day's texture. When someone asks for help, I use a simple triage. Is it short and kind, or does it need a deeper time commitment? For the short and kind, I help now. For the deeper, I invite a later slot so I can give proper attention. Learning to ask for a later time isn't rude. It's a way to honor everyone's work and intention. It also models a healthier professional boundary. Afternoons are when I intentionally create a second wind by doing something physical. This could be 20 to 30 minutes of easy exercise. A run, a home workout, yoga, or simply a long walk with no destination. I've learned that mind and body are looped. Moving the body changes the thinking. If I can't get physical, I use sensory changes. A cold glass of water, a different room, or standing to stretch. The key is variety. The brain loves novelty, even in small doses. Home life in the evening is about reconnection and decompressing. Dinner isn't just fuel. It's a ritual with structure. A shared story about the day, a favorite dish, or a simple experiment where I try a new spice. I try to keep at least one screen-free hour after dinner. Phones and news at that time tend to pull the nervous system back toward stress. Instead, I read, play, or talk with people I love. That hour of low-stimulus activity helps me move into a restful mode later. Before bed, I reflect on the day in a granular but gentle way. I ask, what did I do well? What did I learn? What will I try differently tomorrow? I keep the reflection specific and compassionate. No harsh judgments, just observations and curiosity. A small gratitude list, 3 items, ends the day on a positive note. That practice isn't about denying difficult feelings. It's about balancing perspective so that the bad moments don't eclipse the good ones. Now I want to pause and unpack some small but important patterns that show up across all these moments. Patterns I use deliberately because they shape how my day feels. Intention over perfection. I plan in small increments because big plans are easier to avoid. 3 anchors, 1 professional, 1 personal, 1 micro habit, are doable and meaningful. The mental cost of a long task list is high. Simplicity frees attention. Micro habits compound. 10 minutes of reading, 5 minutes of stretching, drinking a glass of water. These tiny inputs become the lever arms that move larger outcomes. If you only change a thing or two consistently, your life shifts. Boundaries protect quality. Saying, "I'll get back to you," or "I'm focusing right now," isn't a rejection. It's a method of preserving the work and the relationship. Clear boundaries reduce resentments and increase the quality of what you do when you do it. Environment cues behavior. I keep my workspace tidy enough that decision fatigue about starting is low. Small cues, a clean desk, a plant, a cup reserved for pens, reduce friction. If you want to change a habit, alter the environment first. Put your running shoes where you'll see them, or hide the TV remote. Attention rituals reset the brain. Short rituals. A breathing practice, a playlist, a sticky note. Cue the brain that it's time to switch modes. Rituals don't need grandeur. They need reliability. Do the same tiny thing consistently, and your brain learns the pattern. Gentle reflection informs iteration. Ending the day with specific, kind reflection illuminates what worked and what didn't. Over weeks, these micro-adjustments become a roadmap. I also want to talk about the mental texture of a day. What feelings show up and why? Mornings often carry hope and low-grade anxiety. We want to do important things, but we also fear small failures. Midday can bring momentum or a slump. This depends on how well we protected our early energy. Evening is typically soft, sometimes tinged with unresolved tasks that we didn't finish. Recognizing these emotional arcs helps us pick interventions that match the moment. Kindness in the morning, movement in the afternoon, closure in the evening. Here are practical how-tos for a few things I get asked about. How to protect deep work when everything demands attention. Communicate unavailable blocks, use a visible status, a closed door, a headphone signal, and put a tiny visible milestone on your desk. A post-it that says, "First 500 words," or "Outline done." The milestone becomes the reward you can see. How to stop doom scrolling in the morning. Create a short alternate routine. Water, sunlight, 5 minutes of writing, then only check your phone. You can also set your phone to Do Not Disturb until after breakfast. The trick is to replace the habit with something small and satisfying. How to handle low motivation. Start anywhere. Another person's rule that works for me is, do 2 things you don't want to do and 1 thing you want to do. The 2 tasks break cognitive inertia. The 1 fun thing restores balance. How to make meals less mindless. Prepare a few simple go-to meals that are nutritious and take little decision energy. Batch cook elements like grains or roasted vegetables so assembling meals is quick. Eating with intention, chewing slowly, noticing flavors, increases satisfaction and prevents overeating. How to wind down for better sleep. Reduce screen brightness and blue light at least an hour before bed. Hydrate, and do a short body scan meditation or journaling prompt. What would make tomorrow easier? That prompt short-circuits worry into a specific plan. Throughout the day, I also manage energy, not just time. Time is linear. Energy is rhythmic. If you only look at a calendar, you'll assume all hours are equal. They are not. Learn your natural peaks and valleys, and structure your most demanding tasks around your peaks. If your peak is in the evening, plan your creative work then and keep daytime for meetings and smaller tasks. If your peak is early morning, protect that quiet window. Let me tell you about a particular day that felt excellent and why. On that day, I woke gently, did a breath practice, wrote a short free paragraph that unlocked a creative thread, finished a focused writing session, took a long outdoor lunch walk, had 2 short productive meetings that were sharply focused, and spent the evening cooking something new with someone I care about. The through line was intention and small, consistent anchors. Nothing huge happened. No monumental success. But the day felt like a completed pattern. That's what I aim for most days. Enough progress in the right directions to feel satisfied. And then there are the days that go off track. An unexpected call, a project snag, a personal disappointment. On those days, my immediate goal is not to salvage productivity, but to salvage steadiness. I take 3 breaths, Check the basics: food, sleep, hydration. Ask for help if I need it, and simplify the plan to a single realistic next step. Sometimes the next step is reply to this one email, or ask for a 10-minute check-in. Reducing scope saves morale and creates a path forward. Before we wrap up, here are some micro practices you can try tomorrow to change how your day feels. Choose one or two and practice them consistently for a week. The 2-minute start. Begin your day with 2 minutes of breathing and 2 minutes of listing 3 anchors. Keep it tiny and repeatable. The one thing card. At the start of your main work period, write a single must finish and put the card face up. When it's done, flip it. That flip is a win. The movement reset. Midday, do a movement reset. 15 squats, a 5-minute walk, or 3 minutes of stretching. That short reset interrupts the slump. The evening close. Spend 5 minutes writing what went well and what to try tomorrow. Keep the tone curious, not critical. Now for a practical sample monologue you can use or adapt for your own videos. It's short, direct, and invites the audience into the rhythms of the day. Use it as voiceover for B-roll of coffee, walking, writing, cooking, and soft evening light. I woke up to the quiet edge of morning and decided, instead of jumping straight into my phone, to breathe for a few moments and notice the small things. The way my blanket felt, the taste of water, the idea of one task I could finish today. I made a simple breakfast and set a tiny plan. One big work piece, one personal check-in, and 10 minutes of movement. Throughout the day, I rotated between focused work and short resets, a walk, a stretch, a quick stretch of attention, and by the time evening came, I felt like I'd moved from intention to completion. That was the measure of my success. Not perfection, but the feeling of having lived with a few deliberate choices. Finally, thank you for listening to my longer walkthrough of a typical day. If you found particular ideas helpful, the 3 anchors, the movement reset, or the evening close, try one tomorrow and tell me how it goes in the comments box. Remember the 2 questions from the intro? I'd love to read your answers. 1. Which part of your day do you look forward to the most, and why? 2. What tiny habit would you like to change tomorrow? Answer those in the comments box below. If you want more practical breakdowns like this, a focused routine for creative work, a version of this day for parents, or a travel day adaptation, tell me which one you want next and I'll make it.